Now let's talk COVID-19. While it seems like hope is rising through the rollout of vaccines to fight COVID-19, there are a number of misconceptions and myths acting as a barrier to its total acceptance. Experts say there is a need to bust these myths and separate facts and fiction on major COVID-19 vaccine misconceptions. Joining me via Skype from the UK to discuss this is Medical Director, Infectious Diseases Associates of BR and Baton Rouge Multi-Sector Care Center, Dr. Gertrude Chiemeka Anyanwoke. Thank you so much for joining us on DVC Breakfast. Actually, she's joining us from the US. Sorry about the mix-up. Now, quickly, as much as vaccines are coming as great news, there are misconceptions and misinformation surrounding the vaccines and its development. You hear things like there are talks rather about the fact that perhaps it will alter DNAs, that it includes tracking device, and so many misinformation around on social media and everywhere. Quickly talk to us how safe the vaccines are.
Okay. So I understand the concern that people have about the safety and the fact that the vaccines are so new and they were done in such a short time. And those are all legitimate. But the truth is that no shortcuts were taken. CDC and FDA requirements and protocols were observed. They went through the different phases. The reason why it was so fast is because the US government and I think UK and other European countries invested billions of dollars that were financial risk that they put into it to assure the pharmaceutical companies, the manufacturers, that they were not going to lose their money if the vaccines don't work out. So as they were doing the phase 2, phase 3 trials, they were already producing the vaccines because at that time they had done phase 1 trial and they saw that it was safe in humans. And then they started talking about if it produced neutralizing antibodies to kill the virus, to attack the virus. So to come to the other aspect about the misinformation, yes, there's a lot of misinformation out there. Social media is good, and you know when it spreads information, but it also spreads misinformation and sometimes disinformation. There are people that are anti-vaxxers. There are some people that are just hesitant. We have known in the past that minorities, Black people, Hispanics, Native Americans have been discriminated here in America and perhaps in other places. So people don't really trust the system. But there were a lot of doctors that were involved here, including Nigerians. Members of our AMPA, Association of Nigerian Physicians in the Americas, were involved in this production and manufacturing and clinical trial processes. The vaccines they do not affect your DNA. The messenger RNA vaccines are basically synthetic, produced in the lab, basically having genetic code that's mimicking that of the spike protein on the virus. And when they mimic that genetic code in the lab, they used it to produce a messenger RNA vaccine to go into our body, go in our cell, in the cell cytoplasm, and teach our cells how to produce spike protein that our immune system will now recognize and form antibody as a result. So that's the truth. The messenger RNA stays in our cytoplasm, uses our ribosomes and enzymes to teach the cell to produce the spike protein. It never gets into our nucleus. Our nucleus is where the DNA is housed. So if it never got into the nucleus, it never interacted with the nucleus, how can it affect the nucleus? So that's a baseless lie. It doesn't it doesn't change our DNA.
All right.
Microchips, there's no microchips. There's the nanotechnology, the hydrogel nanotechnology that's used in having like a tiny drop of fat molecule to wrap the messenger RNA, because left on its own, it's unstable. And so it keeps it stable until it gets into our cell and produces the spike protein, and it's denatured, it's destroyed. It doesn't cause us any harm as a result.
All right, so before we get to how we can build vaccine trust, talk to us about how long the vaccine takes to build up immunity against COVID-19.
Usually within 2 weeks of taking the vaccine, you would have started building immunity. In fact, immediately you take it, the body's processes start going up, and then the body starts producing antibodies. So within 2 weeks, you would have built some immunity. What we're doing here is we're getting 2 doses. So the first dose, depending on which vaccine, the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine has 3 weeks in between you take the second dose, and the Moderna has 4 weeks in between. AstraZeneca and Oxford haven't been approved in the US, but they've been approved in the UK and the European Union, and that's 4 weeks also. So it depends on which vaccine, but most times 2 weeks is what it takes to build immunity. Then you get the second shot, which is like a booster dose that increases your the effectiveness of the vaccine.
So it means that one cannot take 2 different vaccines.
We hope not. I think a few weeks ago, the CDC here in America came out and said if people are in like an absolute pinch, they may consider it. But I don't think that is the main recommendation right now. People are saying stay whichever you take. For instance, I took the Pfizer vaccine in December, and the first dose, and I took the second dose early January. And so if you take Moderna, you should take the first dose of Moderna and the second dose of Moderna. That's the current advice.
Now then, how can we build vaccine trust, seeing that Nigeria is expecting some vaccines at the end of this month?
So what we should do is like what you guys are doing right now. You get experts online, have people ask their questions. People have legitimate questions. And for those people that have legitimate questions, they should have an avenue to have those questions answered. And they're satisfied that their questions have been answered. Because, if you're concerned about something, I'm an expert in the field, so I know because I followed the whole thing from day one. But other people are not doing that because that's not their specialty. So it behoves on us, medical doctors, experts in this field, and also television stations like yours to create programs like this, have people ask their questions. And so some people will never believe, and there's nothing you can do about that. But for people that have legitimate questions, they have to have that answered.
Now, there is the issue of if people take the vaccine, do they still need to observe the protocols, the safety protocols after taking the jab in terms of wearing the use of face mask, washing their hands, and observing physical distancing?
Yes, that's for now. What we're trying to do is, because even if you take the vaccine, right, you're protected, but the people around you that have not taken the vaccine may not be protected. And we're thinking technically you can still get the infection in your nasopharynx, and you may be able to transmit that to your neighbor or your family member that's susceptible, that might actually get sick. Because we don't have a lot of people that have taken the vaccines right now, we're telling the people that have taken the vaccine to continue maintaining social distancing, wear masks, wash their hands frequently, until we have enough people in the population that have taken the vaccine, and then we'll start relaxing those rules.
Now, are there possible side effects from taking the vaccines? In Norway, there are reports that this morning that there are 29 persons have died as a result, despite taking the vaccines. Okay,
so if you look at the data that was produced, at least here in America, about elderly, right? A lot of the vaccine works a lot well in elderly, but elderly people have comorbidities. Elderly people have other medical problems. So the criteria is that if you're at a certain age, the elderly people get the vaccine first. Now, you don't know what that elderly person has. If they have other illness, if they were, having other issues, some of them are dialysis patients, some of them are heart failure patients. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the vaccine that caused their death. And I just want people to realize that some of those people already had other issues. And until you can say, for instance, like this person was totally fine, didn't have any issue, and this vaccine, there has not been any such reports, by the way. And I want to say that I think the world tracker, I think Bloomberg News is tracking it worldwide. And as of today, this evening, we've had 213 million people worldwide. In America, I think it's about 60-something million people have gotten the vaccine. Now, there are side effects. Most of them are mild. Soreness in your arm where you take the vaccine. When I took my first shot, that's what I had. I didn't even need to take Tylenol or ibuprofen, and it went away. My second shot, however, I felt it a little bit more. I had the soreness, I had myalgia, like backache, and felt some chills, and I was really uncomfortable, and I was at work. Eventually, after some hours, this was the next day, I took ibuprofen and I felt better. So it's very rare for you to have serious side effects. And the serious side effects we're talking about are anaphylaxis. A lot of these people that get anaphylaxis already have history of allergies. And so if they have history of allergies, over here, they usually carry the epinephrine, what we call the EpiPen. And once you give them that jab of EpiPen, they feel better.
Right. Now, how can we deal with issues of vaccine hesitancy? Well, reports say that Israel is leading the world in the speed of its vaccination drive. And one of the measures adopted by Israel is enticing people with pop-up vaccination centers, food, and all of that. Do you think that that could be one thing we can adopt moving forward?
Yes, we can adapt that, but we can also address certain issues. Over here in the U.S., we know that there has been racism in medicine. That's not something that it is a news. We all know it. And so in 1932, there was what we call the Tuskegee syphilis experiment, where black men were experimented on. And even when penicillin came out, they didn't give them the penicillin. They used them and studied the disease, syphilis itself, which that was very cruel. And there's the Henrietta Lacks case where her cancer cells were used for research. She was not informed. She was not compensated. Those things make people distrust the system. If you have a government that's not telling you the truth. So what we need to do is do more outreach, more explanation, more education, and have people that the people trust, people they know, and talk to them and explain it to them. Yes, over here they started using mobile units to go to certain places. They're sending them to CVS. The government hasn't started enticing people with food over here. But yes, Israel has the highest rate in the whole world. I think it's about 82 doses per 100 people, which is great. In the US, I think we're about 19 doses to 100 people. So that's how good Israel is ahead.
Now, what more do you think Nigerians should know before we let you go with regards to the vaccines?
The vaccines are safe, 95% efficacious, both Moderna and Pfizer-BioNTech. AstraZeneca, I think, was tested in the South African strain is really troubling, I have to say that. And so it's kind of dodging the vaccine, meaning the neutralizing antibodies. But what I want people to know is that even if you take that vaccine, right, it prevents severe disease. It prevents severe disease. So even if it doesn't stop you from getting the virus, it will prevent you from getting a severe case of the virus. None of us know who's going to get the severe case of the virus. Some people may get the virus and have a mild case. Some people may get it and have severe health consequences. And even some people will get it and die. And we don't know who. We know that the risk is more in people with comorbidities, elderly people. But I have seen people with no medical problem have gotten the virus and have had a fatality. And in terms of morbidity, I have even friends who got COVID. And that was last year. Till now, they're still complaining about the residual. Some of them have shortness of breath. Some of them are telling me that they're foggy. They're not clear. And these are things that we know, and we're calling it now long COVID. So people should try to continue washing their hands frequently, wear their face mask, keep social distancing, carry sanitizer.
All right, Medical Director, Infectious Diseases Associates of BR and Baton Rouge Multi-Specialty Care Center, Dr. Gertrude Chiemeka Ayanwoke, speaking to us there about the safety of vaccines.